So we'll go quickly through this. So at 4:26 p.m., the Trump shooter was spotted at the airport there by the vendors. Now, at this point in time, he's nothing to nobody. Nobody knows who he is or anything. He's not a subject. He's not a suspect. He's not a person of interest. He's nothing. Now, this invalidates that text that was sent out by the Butler officer to his chat group, letting the other officers know that, hey, somebody followed our lead and snuck in and parked by our cars, just so you know. This has turned out to be a red herring. And of course, as you remember from my video the other night, I showed you that, hey, it was probably this motorcycle here that was parked by the side of the AGR building, and they came and checked it out later on after the shooting with a canine, and you can see they're ruffling through it and going through the compartments of the motorcycle. So my hypothesis is that it was the owner of this motorcycle is probably who the officer saw at 4:26 p.m. over by the picnic table. So now we're going to see the first of several of these who knew what slides that I'm going to present to you here during the analysis of this timeline. So at 4:26 p.m., the Butler officers, the snipers assigned to the second floor of the two-story building here, they're good. The Butler officer down here, the SWAT officer, he's good, but keep in mind, he's probably not even in that position yet, because a lot of them didn't start walking out and coming out here until just before Trump took the stage. The Secret Service snipers are both good. And it's important to note the North Secret Service counter sniper team here, the Hercules 2 team, was facing north, while the South Secret Service team was facing south. And of course, the North team was okay. They didn't seem to be under any kind of stresses that I showed you before. They were just busy checking out the crowd through their binoculars here. And then, of course, the South side team here facing south was all set up with their binoculars and also checking out the area to the south. So everybody's good at this point. Fast forward to 5:38 p.m., 33 minutes before the shooting, Officer Greg Nickel sends this group text out, which we've all seen a million times. And Officer Nickel says he's using a rangefinder. So looking at this aerial photograph here, taken after the rally was over, everything was up here, the stage was up here. I believe this might be the Secret Service command post here, or they might have been in this building. But either way, they were indicated in this area on the map. If you recall, when they were setting things up at the Beaver County and Butler ESU guys, so Secret Service would be right over here. So it wasn't very specific. And I believe that the Butler County command post was either in this building here, or they were in a trailer by the lake here, which was sort of reported by Washington Post. So either way, this is what has to happen. If something happens over here at AGR and they spot a suspicious guy right here on the ground, they radio and they texted and they radioed it to the command guys over here. The guys over here have to pick up a cell phone and call over here to the Secret Service trailer, and there is a state trooper in there whose job is to take that phone call and handle those communications. And he in turn relays it to the Secret Service guys in there. It's kind of a dumb roundabout way to do communications that really adds valuable seconds on to the time. I mean, by the time you make a phone call and somebody picks up and you explain it to them, I mean, you've lost 30 seconds probably. So at 5:44 p.m., Sergeant Lenz in the Butler Command Center hears about the rangefinder, and he picks up his cell phone and he calls the state trooper down in the Secret Service trailer and alerts him to it. And then a minute later, Lenz gets on the radio and says state police and sheriffs should be en route. He told the officers on the ground at 5:45 p.m. So over the next few minutes, it appears the officers all had trouble trying to send pictures of the suspect to each other because the cell phone system was apparently down. I don't know if it was shut down by the Secret Service or if it was just down because of congestion or what the issue was. And then according to CBS News, and I'd seen a few other outlets report this same timestamp too, 5:51 p.m., Secret Service is notified of a suspicious person. 20 minutes before the shooting, the Secret Service was notified by the Pennsylvania State Police of a suspicious person with a rangefinder on the ground, according to three sources familiar with a briefing to members of Congress on Wednesday. And so at 5:52, this is that key time right here, Secret Service shares information about suspicious person. So the Secret Service disseminated information about the suspicious person with the rangefinder to the counter sniper team and response agents on the ground, according to the three sources. So, and then keep in mind, too, at this point, the law enforcement didn't know the suspicious person had a gun. All they know is that he was looking through a rangefinder. So here's our slide again. Who knew what? So at 5:52 p.m., everybody should be in alignment. The police over here and the snipers in the building, of course, they know they're looking for a suspect with a rangefinder on the ground. That's all they know. The SWAT team over here likely knows about it if they're on the same frequency. They should all know about it by now. They know there's a suspect on the ground over at the AGR building, and they're sending officers over there. But remember, all of these SWAT officers here, their job is to protect this area because Trump right now is inside this tent here. And so that's why they were watching this whole area. I am also wondering why it took from, say, 5:44 up to 5:52 p.m. before the Secret Service notified their snipers. They had the news for 8 minutes. Now, up on top of the barn, the North Secret Service counter-sniper team here, they know that they're looking for a suspect over at AGR. They've just gotten the news 20 minutes before, and so has the South team. And remember, the South team is facing south, the North team is facing north, and they're still doing their normal scoping around, looking around with the binoculars, because as far as they're concerned, they're looking for a suspect on the ground. And then there's nothing until 1805. So it seems like about 13 minutes have gone by, and this whole area should have been flooded with officers. I don't know why it wasn't. There should have been, if they said there was a team of people on the way, there should have been cops pulling in like on this side, coming in on this side. It should have been all over the place. Instead, it was like there were no police officers that could be seen in the parking lot until about a minute before the suspect climbed up onto the roof over here, over Building 1. But anyway, this is the police official timestamp, 1805, where he saw the suspect with a backpack get up from the picnic table and go over here where we know he climbed up onto the roof. So coming back once again to my who knew what slide at 6:05 p.m. with 6 minutes to go. Of course, everybody over here knew that they were looking for somebody on the ground. The Butler SWAT team over here obviously knew. And that might be why there was a few officers facing this way over here. This might have been part of their security plan to secure this area, or they may have just been facing this way and just looking to see if there was any threat coming from the AGR building on the ground. Remember, everybody right now still knows it's on the ground. They have no idea that at this moment, the suspect is gotten off the picnic bench. And there he goes. He's leaving the picnic bench there. He's going around the corner with his backpack, and now he's going to climb up the AC unit onto the roof. You've seen me show you this a gazillion times before. And so Spa Guy on his video, if you go and check it out, he thinks that the guy was doing a bunch of stuff right here because there's a lot of scuff marks on that roof right there where he was probably messing around with his bag. And of course, the North Secret Service counter-sniper team, same position. They still don't know that there's anybody about to be on the roof, nor would they see it anyway, and I'll show you that in a second. And of course, the South team is still facing south. So there's something I wanted to show you here about what the views were, because a lot of people are still circulating around pictures and videos about the North team saying, oh, they delayed 42 seconds. They didn't delay anything. And people even showed them at the time of the shooting, reacting and everything. These guys never fired a shot. They might as well have been out of the equation already because their view was obscured. So if you look over here at the AGR building, this is where the suspect was just seen a minute ago at the picnic table. He walks over here, climbs up on the AC, gets up on the roof, and this is now the path that he takes, and we're going to see that in a minute. So he ends up right here. That's his final position, which he chose specifically to be obscured.
Take a look at what happened.
So they're trying to make it look like they didn't do their job or they're part of the conspiracy, but they had no view, no shot by this sniper team. He knew that no matter what, he's going to have a line of sight to Trump, which is down here at this point. And he knows he's going to be seen by this sniper team. So that's why I have always thought that he probably wanted to die. He just knew he was going to get shot at. But the Secret Service counter-sniper team 1 here, the South guys, they did not have an obscured view of the shooter. Okay. And it is quite possible that had they been facing this way north when the shooter got on the roof, they probably would have seen him. But instead, they were facing south. So if I remember correctly, I think it was Dan Bongino that put up a video a few weeks ago, and he was just really slamming the snipers about this. How could this guy be on this roof, and how could you miss him? How did you not see him? And blah, blah, blah. I just think he lacked the situational awareness of what was going on here. The sniper team that could have seen him was doing their job facing the other direction. The sniper team that probably should have seen him was obscured by that tree. And that was proven to us by Representative Eli Crane when he went on to the top of that south barn to see what the view was. And I'll show you in a bit here. I'll zoom in even closer for you. And then there's the other white barn there on the right. And you're going to see them zoom back around over here. And so he's sitting exactly where the south team snipers were when they turned around and were facing north towards that AGR building. So you see the Secret Service south team had this view right here, and I'll zoom into it. It was that window with the vertical pipe next to it, just to the left of the tree. The shooter was directly over that window, and so they barely had him in their horizontal viewing plane. They were just free of the tree enough that they did not have an obscured view like the north sniper team did. Now, once again, Spa Guy came to the rescue. He, too, flew a drone over the north barn right there, where the north team was. And you could see, as he's approaching the two trees, they have a completely obscured view of where the window was. And there's the window just appearing now with the vertical pipe. So they had to go significantly to the left of that. And just now is when, let me back it up here a bit for you, because I want to show you something here. Because if you look, you're going to see just now, and at a much higher height, right here is where they're just able to see the other side of that ridge line on the top of the roof, where you would be able to see the shooter. So do you see how high you really have to be to see the shooter? So when I see all of these people out there saying they should have seen him crawling up the roof, no, they shouldn't have. The physics don't lie, folks. Now, look how high you have to be now to look down the backside of that roof. And close. Look how close you have to be, and look how high you have to be. So at this point, had they been up that high, they would have seen it. Like had they been on the water tower, of course they would have seen it. But coming back here and looking, you can see they just don't see over the ridge line of that roof from their position. Despite all the claims you see everybody from Dan Bongino to all the other folks that say these guys should have been able to see from that height of that barn. No, the physics don't lie here. Examining this screenshot from Spa Guy's video, we can see here, you're looking at the difference between the height of these two buildings. Now, of course, the AGR building is a little bit closer. This is 14 feet from the looks of things. If this is like a 7-foot door, you're probably looking at 14 feet or more. It's hard to really get an accurate figure there, but I'm probably not that far off. How high do you think the top of this barn is? Maybe 16 feet? I mean, look at the cars below it. It looks to be about 3 to 4 times the height of the car. So anywhere from 16 to 20 feet could be the height of this roof here. And from that distance, remember, which is 140 or so yards, they don't have that line of sight that could allow them to see over this ridge line at the top of this roof. And I've showed you this before as well. I showed you, it looks kind of like this. Now, again, we don't know the exact heights of both of these buildings, but in order to be able to see up and over that ridge line, the sniper's got to be way up higher. He's got to be like probably another 20 feet up higher, like at least double the height of where he's at now, to be able to look up and over that ridge line. So that's why the shooter can then kind of shimmy himself up the roof like this. And nobody will see him from the other side here. Nobody, until he lifts his head up high enough over that ridge line there to take that shot. And so, sure enough, that's what we saw on the video from the witnesses. Remember, he was shimmying up the roof, trying to stay as low as he could. And it wasn't until he got right up there, ready to take the shot. And remember, he got interrupted by the cop that was climbing up behind him, too. And a lot of people are suspicious about that. Oh, come on, how could he have just been right there? How did he know where to go? Well, remember, he flew a drone up ahead of time. He flew a drone up at about 4 o'clock and looked all over the roof there, and he obviously saw there was nobody there. Had they even had 2 people sitting on the roof there, his job's done. He just pack it up and drive home. So if the Secret Service had just put one guy up in that water tower that has an excellent overview of the entire roof, that guy probably could have taken out the shooter. And if they had just put a couple of other guys just sitting on the roof on chairs, then this whole situation, I think, would have been avoided altogether, because the shooter would have said, oh, that was my gig right there. There's no way I'm going to get in there now and take a shot. So he'd have to go home.
Someone's on the roof.
Now, 3 minutes before the shooting. And then look on the far right of the screen. You can see one of the officers possibly walking. It might be a civilian.
I have someone on the roof with white shorts.
See that dude running?
See, so both cops see him, and now they're both going to take off. Okay, so back to our who knew what slide. We have 3 minutes to go before the shooting. And it's at this point that the suspect was seen running on the roof, probably right around over here where the arrow is. So, of course, the guys here knew he was around, but at this point, they just now found out he's on the roof. We don't know where the 2 sniper officers are at this point. There's no cops in this building. There's no cops in this building yet. Over here, likely, the SWAT officer might have heard him say it, I have someone on the roof. If he's on the same TAC channel as the other officers that were over here driving in the car, or the other officer that was back by the water tower, he's the one that radioed and said, I have someone on the roof. So it is at this exact time now that James Copenhaver was sitting back over here in the stands and was just shooting at Trump on the stage over here, and happened to capture it in the background as he's running. And you'll see when he gets up here, he's just going to poke his head up just enough to take a quick peek. See there? And then it'll go right back down. Boom. So he was visible for about a second, but the snipers can't see it. And keep in mind, at this time, the Secret Service here, the snipers, are still not on that TAC channel, so they don't hear that they're looking at somebody on the roof. As far as these guys are concerned, at 6:08:20, they're still looking for a subject on the ground. They don't know that he's on the roof because they can't see that he's on the roof because they are obscured. And the cops themselves just found out that he's on the roof. You remember what I showed you right here? So they were completely obscured and don't know that this guy, for the last 30 seconds or so, has been running along the roof line to this point over here. And of course, the south snipers are still facing south, so they have no idea either. They know that there's a suspect that they're looking for back at the AGR building, but they are still facing south. With 2 minutes to go, it's 6:09 p.m. And then, of course, all of the witnesses on the side of the building are trying to get the attention of the police to tell them that he's crawling up the building. But they already know, because about a minute ago, they've already announced it on the radios, and the cop cars are now pulling into the other side of the building. So they are already aware of it. See, this is the path he took. Remember, he climbed up over here and was on the roof and just strolling along, coming down here. He's probably laughing to himself, going, I can't believe I got on this roof. And the north team can't see me, and the south team is facing the other way. He had free reign, and he was unimpeded. And in fact, he wasn't even seen until that cop over there with the body cam over by the water tower was walking around and just happened to see him. If he hadn't seen him, forget about it, man. We would never have known he was up there until the shots were fired. And even then, there still wasn't enough time. So when we look at the who knew what slide, of course, everybody here on the police radios here, they know he's on the roof still. And of course, now the people over here on the grassy knoll area, they know that he's on the roof, and they're trying to alert the police already here. But the cops already know, because they are by this time pulling straight ahead into this parking lot, and they've already gotten out of their cars. And you remember they were walking around here and then going back and tried to climb up here. And you can see the 2 Secret Service Hercules 1 team that's there on the roof. And you can see right at this moment in time, they just stood up and turned around. The clock was set wrong on this body cam video. It's 12 seconds off. So they really turned around at about 6:10 p.m. So remember, they were facing us before, and right up until this instant, they stood up and turned around, and they are now facing towards the AGR building. So they know there's something up. They don't know exactly what, but they know that the local police are working an issue. And watch this. So here we are zoomed in, and we're panning back over. And now, look, they are turning around. See, they're getting their gear, they're turning everything around, and they're realigning and setting up towards the north. The guy's got his rifle up right there, the right side sniper, and he's getting ready to place it onto the tripod, and they are facing north. Oh, this is some incredible data right here. So now we know exactly when these guys turned around here. So it was at 18:10:10. And let's see. So now they are intently facing north, trying to get their bearings, trying to get set up quickly and see if they can't spot this suspect. Now, keep in mind, at this very time, they still don't know that the guy is armed. And they probably can't even see him yet because he's still crawling up the backside of that roof on top of the AGR building. So right now, they're not even going to know that he's armed until the shots ring out, unfortunately. And also, since they don't have clear communication with the local police over there as to exactly what's going on, they don't know where he is on the roof either. Now, about 30 seconds after the Secret Service sniper team, the South team, turns around, this is when the butler officer is over on the AGR side, climbing up the roof now, and now sees him right there at 6:10:55. So several seconds later, a butler officer gets on the radio and he says, he's armed, I saw him, he's laying down. Then he said he's got a long gun. It's 6:11 p.m. and there's less than 30 seconds to go before the shooting starts. And so far, it appears that only the police know that the shooter is on the roof in the prone position and armed. The Secret Service snipers cannot see him, and they don't even know he's armed, and they haven't even heard that he's on the roof at this point. It is now 6:11 p.m. and less than 30 seconds to go, folks. So over here, all of the cops on these TAC channels here, all of the cops around this area know that he's up there and that he's armed. And I've got the shooter shown right here on the roof in the exact position where he was. And, of course, over here, I'm assuming this Beaver SWAT guy and probably any of the other SWAT guys over here probably heard on their radio that he is now armed. So everybody on this side of the fence knows that he's armed. Obviously, Sergeant Lentz is hearing that now in the command center, and he's trying to get on the phone to relay that to the Secret Service guys, because right now, the sniper team up here, or the North team, still doesn't know. Of course, they still can't see, so they still don't know he's on the roof. They haven't been told anything yet other than that, because the call that just went out about 30 seconds ago from the local police, once they discovered where he was up on the roof, that wouldn't have been enough time to even get to these guys in time. The South team, remember, the South team here, they still can't see him. Why? Because he's still behind the ridge line here. He hasn't poked his head up yet. So this has been the source of much debate amongst the people commenting on my videos. They're like, oh, come on, he was up on that roof. How come the Secret Service snipers couldn't see him? Again, he's below the ridge line. And so then they come back with the argument, how come he showed up in that guy James Copenhaver's video there? Well, because that was before. It was before the South team turned around. And, of course, the North team could never see it because they were obstructed. So you see, this guy just kind of fell through every crack imaginable here. So I bet your next question is, okay, if he wasn't visible then, when did he become visible? Because how did that SWAT officer on the ground see him and know to take the shot there? So let's take a look at that. So that's why in this witness video, that's why these people were able to spot him, because they were at a much better angle to see him right at the lower end of the roof when he was first climbing up. They had a much better vantage point than even the Secret Service snipers elevated up on the barn, who still couldn't see over the ridge line. Keep watch right up here in the upper left. There he is. Boom. That's his face. Now watch this. You'll see it again very clear in the next frame. See? There's his head right there. So he has to poke his head up above that ridge line, because even he himself can't see the rally site, just like Secret Service snipers on the North Red Barn could not see him because they were blocked by the trees, and the South Side snipers can't see him unless he pokes his head up like this. Yeah, so if you look here, here's the window, and here's the lane, and they go up this way at an angle there. So this is the very first time you're seeing him, and it is now 4 seconds approximately before the shooting breaks out. See, and there he is again, perfectly clear, and again. So that's why they were unable to take him out sooner. The way we figure, they probably had 4 or 5 seconds before the shooting broke out is when he actually lifted his head up high enough that anybody would have seen him. But if you're not aimed directly at that very spot where his head was, and you don't even know at this point in time that he's even on the roof, remember, the snipers still don't know he's on the roof yet. They haven't gotten that memo yet. So that's how they missed it. Now, the other question is why did it take so long for them to shoot? Okay, so let's take a look at the audio here and help us figure this out. So I've created this and blocked everything off in different colors for you to easily identify. So it looks like the shooting starts here at about 7.5 seconds in. Let's just call it 8 to round it off there. So at 8 seconds, the shooting starts, and he fires 3 shots and then the 5 shots. And then right here, somewhere around 14, in between 13 and 14 seconds, is when the ESU SWAT guy comes in and fires that shot that disables the rifle. So this right here is about 6 seconds. So a lot of people were wondering, well, how could the SWAT officer so quickly acquire the shooter, and yet the sniper team took so long? So the officer is right here, so 6 seconds. And then if we pan down here to go look where the Secret Service shot was fired, it's down here from 24 to 8. So it looks like it's 16 seconds from the first shot until they were able to acquire a lock on him and then fire that kill shot. So if you remember from Clay Higgins' report here, he said that after the officer shot the Trump shooter's rifle, Crooks went down from his firing position when shot 9 was fired, and the SWAT officer was certain of his hit. According to the ESU SWAT operator, Crooks recovered after just a few seconds and popped back up. So this means that for several seconds after the officer fired this shot, the Trump shooter was back down below the ridgeline again. Now, we don't know how many seconds, but he said seconds, so probably somewhere around here, he pops back up again. And now he's facing the crowd like I've shown you before, and he had his gun aimed at the crowd and was about to shoot the witnesses that were pointing him out to the police, probably out of revenge to try to take one last person with him. And then that's when the Secret Service snipers had acquired him. Okay, so a question that I'm getting asked quite a bit lately is, how did that SWAT officer down on the ground, how was he able to hit the Trump shooter within 6 seconds, while it took an additional 10 seconds after him before the Secret Service snipers were able to hit him? So that one comes up quite a bit. So we're going to come back to this other slide here again, and I just wanted to point something out to you. A lot of people erroneously think that the Secret Service snipers here had a better vantage point being up here than the SWAT officer down here. I don't think that's necessarily true, because the Trump shooter up here, the second he puts his head up over that ridge line, both of these guys, in theory, could see him, and either one of them could easily hit them. I mean, these guys are trained professionals. That's what they do. So it's not that in this particular case, either one has, I think, has equal footing as to which one could hit the shooter. Now, in his case, remember, he heard on the radio just a few seconds before that the guy was on the roof and armed. And so he's already looking that way. And look where he's standing. He's way up over here by the fence, whereas Trump was back here 140 yards away from the shooter. The Butler SWAT officer is only 80 yards away from the shooter. But yet look back here at these guys. The Secret Service snipers are probably close to 250, almost 300 yards away. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is he was closer and was already facing and much quicker able to see where the shooting was coming from. Who knows where these guys were looking? So all of these pictures going around the internet saying that they waited 42 seconds. Where did they get that 42 seconds from? How did they know what these guys were even looking at or what they saw. This guy was standing there, not even looking through a scope or anything. He was just standing there watching and saw the muzzle flash, raised his rifle, aimed, and shot. And then 10 seconds later, these guys came in. So remember, in between his shot, the Butler SWAT, and the Secret Service sniper shot, which is about 10 seconds time frame between these two, is when the shooter went down momentarily for a few seconds and then popped back up. And when he popped back up is when Secret Service took the shot. So they probably didn't have a shot at him after the Butler SWAT guy shot at him. They had to wait several seconds until he popped his head back up again. And so, you know, the bottom line here is that Secret Service, A, we know they blew it because they should have not allowed Trump out on the stage at 5:51 p.m. is when they should have made that call. Nope, he's not going out till we find this guy. That's the main thing. None of this would happen. We wouldn't even be here talking about this. The second thing that happened was, remember, the Secret Service South team was facing south at the time that the Trump shooter was getting up on the roof. That's why they didn't see him. So all of these people saying, oh, they should have saw him. They should have easily seen him. How could how could James Copenhaver out in the crowd just shooting Trump? How did his video pick him up? But these guys didn't see him because they weren't facing that direction. The North team had no line of sight of him. It's just one of these strange things where he got through the cracks there. So make sure if you haven't checked out these other videos here, you can start here and binge watch them and catch up on the whole series here on the Trump assassination. Because I tell you, you do not want to miss out on any of those. We have the best information out there. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.